The Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Glory to you, O Lord. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. You may be seated. Grace and peace to you from God our Father and from our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. I have to tell you that this portion of Revelation is one of my favorite texts in Scripture. And I know that over the last 10 to 15, even more years, people of faith and people of not so much faith have been fascinated by the book of Revelation. I think mostly because of its imagery and its colorful symbolism, and maybe even the scary battles that ensue in the story. But what I love about this section of Revelation is that I think it points to what John really intended the whole book of Revelation to be about when he smuggled it to his communities on the mainland from his prison on Patmos. You see, this vision of the heavenly throne room of God, I think, is meant to be a message of encouragement, of hope, of comfort for a community that's horribly in turmoil. And what kind of message of hope would it be? I mean, look, think about it. Here we are at an interlude in the story. We're between the sixth and the seventh seal being opened. And there's lots of scary stuff going on in the midst of that. But here we have this interlude where John is taken to the throne room of God. And when John gets there, he sees this multitude too great to count standing there before the throne of God. And they're all dressed in white robes, probably a brighter white than John or even we could ever imagine. And they're all standing there, palm branches in hand, praising God, saying, "Salvation belongs to our God who sits on the throne and to the Lamb." They're waving their palm branches, they're singing. I mean, can you imagine it? A group bigger than you can count, sitting there and praising God. I liken it to perhaps what it's like to have 36,000 youth and adults gathered in some kind of super dome area at youth gathering, singing and dancing and praising God together, and then multiplying it a few 100,000 trillion times. I mean, it has to be loud and pretty darn awesome. Because are all these people praising God. And if that's not enough for you, then you have all of the angels of God join in. They come and they surround the host, this multitude, and they join the elders and the four living creatures, and they fall to their faces, and they begin to praise God, saying, "Amen, blessing and glory and wisdom and thanksgiving and honor and power and might be to our God forever and ever. Amen." I mean, the sound must have been crazy. John must have been suffering from sensory overload at this point. And just as he's thinking that he doesn't know if he can handle any more, an elder turns to him and says, "Hey, who do you think all of these people dressed in white are?" And I imagine John blinking his eyes and saying, "You brought me here. I don't know." "Sir," he says, "you tell me. Who are they? You know." And the elder says to him, "These are the ones who went through the great ordeal. Their robes have been washed in the blood of the Lamb, And now they get to be here and praise God day and night. That must have been pretty good news to John's community. Because it wasn't easy to be a follower of Jesus in John's time. In fact, John's communities were being torn apart, literally. Houses were being destroyed by the Roman government. They were being kept from food and drink. Their families were being torn apart. People were being killed because they chose to worship Jesus, not the emperor. So imagine John sending a letter and saying, hey, I've seen it. All those who have gone through this great persecution, this oppression, those who have died, those who we are mourning, I've seen them. They're with God. Because of their baptism, because they've been washed in the blood of the Lamb, they are standing before God's throne. All people, all nations, all tongues are gathered together. I've seen it. That would have been great comfort, wouldn't it? And if that's not enough, the elder goes on to tell John all of the promises that God makes to those who stand before God's throne. Yes, they will worship God day and night, and God will be their shelter. They will no longer hunger or thirst. The sun will not strike them. Jesus promises to be their shepherd, to guide them to still waters. And God will wipe the tears from their eyes. Imagine if you're losing your house, you're kept from food and water, your family members are dying. What kind of a message would that be? What kind of promise would that be for you? But my friends, it's not just for the people in John's time. It is a promise for us as well. We know full well that all generations of God's people have had to face different kinds of ordeals. The people that are sitting in this place may have witnessed some of these ordeals. The stock market crash of 1929 and the ensuing depression. World War II and D-Day in particular. What about the Vietnam War that took the lives of so many of our countrymen? The Great Flood of 1993 that affected so many sitting right here. September 11th, 2001 changed our world forever. And Hurricane Katrina and the aftermath with racism and injustice magnified. And now we're facing kidnapping of schoolgirls in Nigeria, shootings in Ferguson, Missouri, and beyond, the Ebola outbreak that so many are fearful of. And right around us every day we have homelessness, fights among spouses and friends, bullying in our schools that has extended to cyberbullying that goes beyond what most of us can imagine. And we've all faced illnesses of our own or within our families that have torn us apart. We've all faced some kind of ordeal, and to hear the promise that God is there for us in the midst of it all, that God will be our shelter even on those days when we feel completely exposed to the world, that God will give us food and drink when the pit of our stomach is empty, and when our thirst for justice and peace just can't be fulfilled. That Jesus will be our guide and guide us along even when that guidance is so hard to find. And that God will wipe away our tears even on those days when we are not sure that the tears will ever stop falling. Those promises, my friends, are for us. And lest we think that this is just for some distant beyond, for the time after we die, when we join that great cloud of witnesses in front of God's throne, Jesus tells us differently in the Beatitudes today. Because in the Beatitudes today, Jesus says, blessed are, not blessed will be, not blessed might be, blessed are a whole bunch of people and not the people that we normally think of as blessed. If this world were to start naming Beatitudes, they might see, blessed are those who have a good education because they will find a good job. Blessed are the rich because they can buy whatever they want. But Jesus says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And I know that when we find ourselves in some of those categories, we don't feel very blessed. In fact, when we are mourning or poor in spirit, even sometimes when we're trying to be peacemakers, we wonder, where is God in the midst of all of this? But I want to ask you a question. When you think of the saints in your life who have taught you the promises of God, who have shown you God's grace and mercy, who have shown you where God has been in the midst of their ordeals, are they the richest, the ones that have the most, the ones who have made it by all means of this world's success? Maybe. Maybe they have. But the qualities of the people from my life, the people that I think of as saints, are the people who fit the categories here. They're the people who are merciful and peacemakers, who thirst for righteousness and justice. Here are some of our Redeemer saints throughout time. And when I look at these pictures, these people fit these categories as well. They were peacemakers. They were merciful. Some of them still are. They're still here. When I think of you who are sitting here, that's what I think about, the ways that you reach out to help others because you put God first. You put love of God and love of neighbor in front of all else. And that's what these people have done. These are our teachers and our pastors, our friends and our neighbors. They're the ones who have taught us who God is. They're the ones who have shown us mercy, who have been with us when we mourned to comfort us. They are the ones who have shown us God's blessing here, now, in this place. Because, my friends, we all are children of God. We have all been named as children of God in our baptism. In 1 John, they were in the midst of a schism. The church had divided. And John wanted to remind them that God loved them so much that God named them children of God's, even in the present. So no matter what ordeal we face, God has named us children. You see, my friends, God loved us so much that God became human in Jesus Christ and came to live among us to show us that love and to help us to learn to love one another in the same way. And when that wasn't enough, Jesus went and died on a cross and rose again so that we could be called children of God, so that we could be part of God's family. And we don't know what that looks like in its fullness. In 1 John, we're told what all that means has not yet been revealed to us. Paul writes in 1 Corinthians, now we see in a mirror dimly, but then we will see face to face. God has promised us that one day all that God is will be revealed to us, and we will see God for who God is. We'll also see who we are as God sees us, because I think sometimes we sell ourselves short. But my friends, we know we don't always know where we're going, but we trust that God will lead us. And if we look at those people who have led us along the way, who have shown us God's promises in the way that they have lived their lives, they didn't know the way either. but they trusted that they could follow God, that Jesus would be their guide, and God would provide them shelter to get them from here to there, and so we do too. And so on this All Saints' Day, we give thanks for all the saints in all of our lives, those who have gone on, who in their lives trusted in that vision of the future of God's great throne room, but lived the blessings of Jesus in this day. We give thanks for all of us who are gathered in this place today, who live as saints for one another, helping us to remember, even in the midst of the chaos and ordeals of this life, that God is here. We give thanks for those that God continues to call as children of God through the waters of baptism, because we know that just as the faith was passed on to us by the saints in our lives, and we pass on the faith to them, they will continue to pass the faith on to generations to come, so that the promises of God can be known for all time. But on this day in particular, I want to give thanks for the saints in this community of faith, the children of God who have died in this year. And I also want to give thanks for those whom God has called to be named as children of God through the waters of baptism in this place this year. Because it's through these people that the promises of God are made real for us. And for that we say thanks be to God.